The grand doors of the courtroom creaked open as the morning light filtered to the tall windows, casting a golden glow over the polished wooden benches. It was a place where stories unfolded, where the complexities of human relationships were laid bare under the watchful eye of the law. This was a sanctuary of Judy Justice, a room where the truth was sought with precision and a touch of seasoned wisdom. On this particular day, the air was filled with a mix of anticipation and the quiet hum of legal proceedings. The bailiff stood tall and announced with a clear, resonant voice that the court was coming to order. Everyone in the room rose as one, a silent tribute to the institution they were about to engage with. Judge Judy, a woman of formidable presence and sharp intellect, took her seat behind the high bench. She looked out at the individuals gathered before her eyes scanning the faces of those seeking resolution. The case before the court was number 3001, involving Rebecca Dooley and Isaiah Quinones. Rebecca, a woman who carried herself with a quiet strength, was suing her former boyfriend for an unpaid loan and unauthorized charges. Beside her, Isaiah stood with a posture that suggested a mix of confidence and unease. Judge Judy began the inquiry by looking at Rebecca. She asked what kind of work Rebecca did to support herself. Rebecca replied that she was a personal trainer and an esthetician. She explained that she had recently started personal training in May, but her journey in the world of beauty, specifically working with eyelashes, had begun long ago in the year 2008. The judge clarified the timeline, noting that Rebecca had been dedicated to her craft for many years. The relationship between Rebecca and Isaiah had been relatively brief. Rebecca described him as a short-term boyfriend, though Isaiah corrected her, saying they were never officially together but were merely dating. The judge noted that they were dating sufficiently for Isaiah to ask for a significant amount of money. According to the records, he had requested a loan of $10,000 for an investment. The judge asked when this request had occurred. Rebecca stated it was in August of the year 2021. At that point, she had only known him for about 1 month. The judge remarked that such a decision did not seem entirely wise for someone who appeared to be intelligent. Rebecca admitted with a small, self-deprecating smile that it was indeed not a very intelligent move. Isaiah had presented a plan to buy and resell cars, a business venture that required capital. Rebecca, believing in the potential of the project, and perhaps in the man himself, provided the $10,000. She had saved this money through her hard work in the beauty and fitness industry. However, as the months passed, the money was not returned, the relationship faded, and Rebecca found herself in court seeking what she had lost. Judge Judy examined the evidence, looking for a clear trail of the $10,000. She noted that the payments were fragmented. There was a payment of $3,605 in August, followed by smaller amounts like $200, $100, and $2,500 later in October. The judge expressed skepticism about the nature of these payments, wondering if they were truly for a business investment or simply the result of a relationship where money flowed back and forth. Rebecca explained that the smaller amounts were often given because she felt sympathy for Isaiah. She described herself as a giver, someone who could not stand to see another person struggle. In October, she had given him money because he claimed he could not afford Christmas presents for his daughter. The judge questioned why she would come to court if she was so willing to give, and Rebecca clarified that while the small amounts were a gift of the heart, the $10,000 was a formal loan intended for the car business. The judge pointed out a pattern that many find themselves in. Rebecca had continued to send money even after the initial loan was not repaid. Rebecca attributed this to a psychological phenomenon she called love bombing. She described it as a tactic where a person showers another with affection and promises to create a false sense of security and trust. It was a story as old as time, a narrative of vulnerability being met with opportunism. Isaiah, on his part, insisted that he was not a liar, though he admitted he might be a bad businessman. He explained that he had purchased 2 vehicles in August using the money. He claimed to have spent $9,500 on them, but ended up losing money, selling them for about $8,000. This meant that even by his own calculations, he still held $8,000 of Rebecca's original investment. The cycle continued as Isaiah told Rebecca he would purchase more vehicles. He claimed to have added $2,000 of his own money to the $8,000, making a total of $10,000 for the next set of cars. However, he claimed these were also sold at a loss, bringing in only $7,500. The judge noted that even in his worst-case scenario, he still possessed a significant portion of her funds. Isaiah spoke of his own struggles, mentioning a period of family leave due to health issues involving kidney stones. He portrayed himself as someone who was trying but failing, caught in a web of bad business decisions. Yet, the judge saw through the complexity. She noted that while Rebecca might have been looking for love and a successful investment, Isaiah had ended up with cash in his pocket while she bore the entire loss. The judge concluded that even if it was viewed as a business investment rather than a straightforward loan, it was unfair for one partner to retain all the remaining capital while the other lost everything. She ruled in favor of Rebecca for the amount of $7,500. It was a victory for Rebecca, though it came with a hard-learned lesson about trust and the importance of protecting one's own interests. As the first case concluded, the courtroom transitioned to another story of trust and disappointment. Case number 3007 involved Courtney Lacey and Marcus Mayo. They had met in the vast digital world of social media, specifically on a platform called TikTok. Courtney was a passionate entrepreneur in the beard care industry, creating products designed to help men maintain their facial hair. The conflict began when Marcus traveled from Connecticut to Ohio to assist Courtney at a business fair. He had rented a high-end electric vehicle, a Tesla, for the journey. It was their first time meeting in person. The arrangement was informal, a meeting of two people who had built a friendship through screens and messages. At the event, Courtney had 78 jars of her product, which she valued at $25 each for retail, though they cost her about $6 each to produce. The fair was not as successful as they had hoped, and Marcus ended up taking the remaining jars with him, under the impression that he would help sell them to his friends and barbers in his home state. However, the friendship soured quickly after the event. Courtney had asked Marcus to leave her home because she felt uncomfortable having a guest while her children were returning unexpectedly. This led to an argument and a subsequent breakdown in communication. Marcus felt slighted and eventually discarded all 78 jars of the product, claiming they reminded him of the negative experience. Courtney sought damages for the lost product and the perceived harassment that followed their falling out. Marcus countersued for the cost of his travel in the rental car, but the judge dismissed his claims as being without merit, noting that he had chosen to make the trip of his own volition. The judge focused on the act of throwing away the product. She noted that while the relationship had ended poorly, Marcus had no right to destroy property that did not belong to him. She calculated the cost of the jars at $468 and ruled that Marcus must compensate Courtney for that amount. The two cases, though different in their details, shared a common thread. They were stories of people searching for connection and collaboration in an increasingly digital and complex world. They highlighted the importance of clear communication, the risks of vulnerability, and the necessity of the law to provide a sense of balance when human relationships falter. As the sun moved higher in the sky, the participants left the courtroom, each carrying their own reflections on the day's events. Rebecca walked away with a sense of vindication, while Courtney felt a quiet relief that her hard work had been recognized. The judge remained at her bench, ready for the next story, a reminder that in the search for justice, there's always a lesson to be learned and a path toward a more positive and informed future. The courtroom fell into a brief silence before the next case was called, a moment of stillness in the heart of a busy city. It was a place where the human spirit was tested, where mistakes were scrutinized, but also where the values of honesty and responsibility were upheld. In every word spoken and every decision made, there was a hope for clarity and a step toward understanding the intricate dance of human interaction. In the end, these narratives served as a gentle reminder to all who listened. They were stories of resilience and the pursuit of what is fair. They taught the importance of knowing who we trust and the value of our own efforts. Most importantly, they showed that even in the face of disappointment, there is a way to move forward with grace and a renewed sense of purpose, carrying the lessons of the past into a brighter and more thoughtful tomorrow.